and she's just phenomenal. And the way she embodied the character in every audition we did a whole sequence where I just kind of gave her direction in real time as she's pretending to drive through the crime scene. And it was like she was there on Zoom, which is, I've never seen anything like it. And so she really embodied the character from day one.
Welcome to Locarno Meets, a movie podcast brought to you by UBS from the Locarno Film Festival. Freddy Macdonald is a director bringing his debut feature, So Torn, to Locarno in 2024. He joined us to talk about the Coen brothers, drug dealing, and why he had set a thriller in the world of a seamstress. Freddie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Look, congratulations on So Torn.
Oh, thank you.
Great. I want to tell you, okay, so I was watching it, and, I was about 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
And she drives past the accident, and she gets out, and she gets her pieces of sewing thread, and she climbs out of the car, and she walks back, and I've got absolutely no idea what's going to happen. And they get threaded, and she gets back in the car, and I still don't understand what's going on. She goes, and then I'm like, yes, this is legitimately a new idea.
Oh, thank
so congratulations for that.
That means a lot. And as you can probably tell, we had too much fun with thread in the movie. I don't want to touch thread ever again, but we had a lot of fun with all those thread schemes, and I'm glad you appreciated it, especially in that inciting incident of the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, at what point did it occur to you that thread could become the thread of an entire movie?
Yeah, so it's a really kind of crazy story how the film came together, and I'll keep it short. But basically, the feature is based on a short film that was my application film to film school. And I knew I wanted to go to the American Film Institute in LA, and their application was to tell a story in 5 minutes about a character who has a change of heart. Mm-hmm. And my dad and I, we worked together. His name is Fred. I'm Fred. I'm the fifth Fred in my family, which is a whole other story. But we started brainstorming and thinking about, what we could do with this 5-minute runtime. And it also had to have no dialogue. So we had to communicate this story visually and this character transformation visually as well. And we were thinking about our favorite films, and one of our favorites is No Country for Old Men and Fargo. I love everything that the Coens do. And we just love that setup of coming upon this drug deal, because you're kind of faced with the ultimate choice when you have that briefcase there, and that just excited us. But we wanted to kind of spin it on its head and put a protagonist in that position that we had never seen before. Mm-hmm. And we pretty quickly came up with the idea of a seamstress, because because
it felt odd, felt like you've never seen it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like it just felt like the ultimate juxtaposition to the crime scene.
You were like, no, I've seen that.
Exactly.
Priest definitely seen that.
Oh, that's actually good. We should have done. No, but that was our exact line of thinking. But once we figured out the seamstress side of things, we realized not only that it was an interesting juxtaposition with the thread and the guns and the blood and her car. We realized that we could actually subvert expectations with this thread, with a crazy Rube Goldberg-esque contraption that allows her to come out on top and almost give her a superpower in many ways. So anyways, this is like completely going off my story, so I apologize.
That's literally what we're here to hear.
Oh, good. We came up with the idea for the short, and which is the inciting incident of the feature, which is that moment that you're talking about. And we shot it on one day on this desolate road in the Alps for no money. Didn't think much of it. It was a really hard shoot. I remember being very upset at the end of it. I don't remember why. I think it was because I was like wrangling all this thread while like talking to Sebastian Klinger, my cinematographer, about like, did we get everything? Because I wasn't even looking at the monitor sometimes. I was like trying to wrangle thread. Anyways, I was kind of like, I don't know. But I cut it, and I was like, okay, it works as an application film. And we blasted it out to the schools and to the world. And it just happened to land in the hands of a guy named Peter Spears. Mm-hmm. And he produced Call Me By Your Name and Nomadland. And he loved it. And he was like, guys, I want to send this to some of my friends. And we were like, yeah, please. We didn't know what that meant.
Sure.
And then a week later, he called us and he was like, guys, Joel Coen wants to meet for coffee.
Dude.
And,
that's ridiculous.
He's my biggest hero. And I was actually terrified, though, because I thought he was going to be upset that we stole his setup. I thought he was going to be like, guys, it's a little too close. But luckily he was...
You'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Exactly. But he was the most supportive guy, most humble guy.
So what did he say?
He was just like, I'll never forget. I met with him in LA with my dad, and he was firstly he thought that the fact that my dad and I worked together was very cool.
Yeah, he works with his brother.
Exactly. Yeah, and Francis. Which was really refreshing, because up until that point, my dad and I had heard kind of like, oh, really? It's father-son. And it kind of, because I was so young then, it kind of looked like he was maybe a stage dad or something,
sure.
Which wasn't the case at all. We have the exact same taste. Not once have we ever gotten in a disagreement about story. But so Joel initially was like, oh, that's great. And he said, the next thing he said was, you guys have to turn this into a feature. And he's like, I want to see where this Seamstress is going next, and do it independently. Do it the blood simple method. Go to your dentist, go to anyone and raise the money. And luckily I got into AFI and developed the script there. But it was
it's
crazy...
always the dentist that people mention for some reason. I think it was Stanley Kubrick who got money from a dentist.
Oh, did he?
And since then, everybody always says, go to your dentist.
And the Coens I feel like they have some dentistry in their films also. So it's a very loaded, I guess they have money. So
have you got a top 3 Coen Brothers movies?
Well, off the top, I just have to say No Country, Fargo. The third is always difficult.
Changes, right?
It changes. I think, let me think. I love Ballad of Buster Scruggs just because of, the vignette nature of it.
Yeah.
Serious Man. There's too many good... What are your favorites? I'm curious.
All right, but it changes every day.
Exactly.
All right, Raising Arizona.
Yep.
Miller's Crossing. And right now it's Hail Caesar, because I just think it's the funniest film they ever made.
Yeah.
But that's because I haven't seen Fargo in about 3 years. When I rewatch Fargo, it'll go back up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, their filmography is absolutely insane.
Dude.
What they've managed to accomplish, and also just in terms of original storytelling too, and being able to allow their voice to shine in every project that they work on. It's really inspiring.
I'm sure. I mean, so you sit down with your father to to work on the script. At that point, did you have an idea of who the seamstress could be? Because it's a character, I feel, with a lot of unspoken backstory. Did you know the patchwork of her life previously when you made the short, or did it kind of come to you as the character grew into the feature?
It kind of grew with the feature, and the writing of the feature was a very long process. Part of it was because it was getting developed at AFI, which is a fantastic program. I loved it there, but you're getting a lot of notes all the time. And so actually the first version of the script...
And you're like, Joel Coen liked it.
Exactly. And they didn't care. They humbled me immediately the second I got there in the best way. But it was a long development process. And the first version of the script was a linear version.
Gotcha.
And we did 22 drafts of that. And on the 22nd draft, we were getting the same notes that we got on the first draft. And we were like, oh my God, we got to throw this out. Because... it was stale to us, but we had done all the character work through those drafts.
So a blessing in disguise.
Exactly. But we really, I'll never forget, kind of speaking of like pivotal moments of choice, which relates to the film, my dad and I went on this long brainstorm walk, and we were heavily considering not turning it into a feature anymore because we were just so done with it. But it really took thinking about what the short film was about again, which is, again, this change of heart, this moment of choice, that we were like, oh, it would be really fun to explore those paths that she could go down, because there's really ultimately only 3 things she could do. If you're faced with that, you can do what the normal person would do and call the police, or you could drive away and pretend you'd never seen it, or commit the perfect crime. So then we went to town with the script in that 3-story structure.
And I mean, it feels like that character. It feels like the actress Eve Connolly must have brought quite a lot to that character. There's a kind of pivotal scene inside the film where she bursts into dance, and you can tell it's a moment of either catharsis or total breakdown.
Yeah, exactly.
And is that something that was always written down on the page, or is that the kind of thing that you worked out with Eve?
Well, Eve brought so much to it, because I'll never forget, casting the casting process, because we had a lot of people do the dance in their audition.
Gotcha.
Which I felt terrible asking, because I hate being on camera, probably clearly, and
they chose that life.
Exactly, they chose it. That's what I have to tell myself. But we did a lot of exercises, but the dance was the number one thing to see, because we knew we weren't going to have a choreographer, because it's not meant to feel choreographed.
Sure.
And I'm so glad that you felt it was an emotional catharsis and a breakdown simultaneously. And she's trying to put on a show to distract someone, and she just hit every single beat all on her own in her bedroom on Zoom. And that's when I knew it's pretty much exactly what you see in the film. And she's just phenomenal. And the way she embodied the character in every audition we did. We did a whole sequence where I just kind of gave her direction in real time as she's pretending to drive through the crime scene. And it was like she was there on Zoom, which is, I've never seen anything like it. And so she really embodied the character from day one.
I think my favorite scene in the film is when three enemies have to work together to escape a sort of makeshift prison, which also feels like it could be a short film. Or something.
Cool.
I'm interested. I don't know, where did that idea come from, and did any particular films inspire that section?
I love physical action. I love tactile tension, like tension that you can shoot practically and feel. And I think I love films like Man Escaped, or where you just feel that physicality. So we wanted to capture that for sure, but also like you said, it's this makeshift prison in this bizarre setup, and capture the comedic tension of that as well. So we wanted to have that tonal balance there. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other films.
It's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's so many references going through our head there, but I will never forget being in that office for days on end, shooting the red darts while the whole crew went to sleep. My dad and I and Sebastian were just there. We kept the lights up and would just shoot inserts the whole night. So
yeah, I mean, so you're talking about in the film, they developed these dart guns basically out of, is it just paper wrapped around a needle with a bit of thread on the end of it?
Yeah.
Does that work? Can you do it?
Yes. My dad, I don't know if he'll be happy me telling the story, but he used to do that at school. He would take a thumbtack and he would blow them at people's butts.
Cool.
And at the ceiling.
That is a solid joke.
So he's probably going to cringe. But so that was something that he had done. And then we were like, oh, that's interesting. What happens when we attach a needle to this and thread? Does that actually work? And we would do it around our house, and it worked. And so it was really a discovery process for these Rube Goldberg schemes. But then Eve would do it around her house, and she said she was terrifying her family members shooting those things around. So yeah, it all works.
So okay, so I'm interested in that. Even the more complex of your Rube Goldberg, your Wallace and Gromit, your Pee Wee Herman machines. Exactly. So you put a lot of effort into building something that could theoretically work. Even I don't want to spoil the film, but even the dramatic final contraption is theoretically based in physics, or did you build it?
It is. And it actually, it all works. And of course the film is very heightened in nature, so we get away with things, but just the nature of the production, we knew we weren't going to be able to do stuff with VFX. And of course, there is this kind of stop motion quality to the way we've shot things, but everything works in real life, and we shot them in real life and distributed that video amongst the whole team, so everyone kind of knew how these things worked to an extent.
What danger you've unleashed upon the world.
Exactly.
You've taught hundreds of people how to
Exactly.
pull a
Watch
gun
out
with it.
here at Locarno. You might see some thread on the floor.
Look, did you invent knitted pictures of people that when you pull the thread, their voice comes out of it?
We did.
That's a good invention.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we got a lot of help from Bernina and Mettler, who are two sponsors of the film. Bernina is sewing machines and Mettler is thread. So we had as much thread and sewing machines as we could possibly ask for. But Bernina has this incredible ability to stitch these photorealistic, or you can take an image and embroider it. And it's wild because it's, I think we had millions of stitches that we did that they helped us create. But we love I'm glad you appreciated them as an invention, because you're like, oh, this kind of works as a product. Thank you. And also, as a, greater thematic device for Barbara's stuckness as a character and her attachment to her past. And we kind of wanted it to be like a web that traps her in many ways.
Have you got distribution for the film yet?
We're still pushing, and my agents are having conversations, and we have now our international sales agency working on it.
It will be fine.
I hope.
And thinking about the future, I mean, clearly you have a good relationship working with your father. I mean, as a man myself, I can say that I don't think it would be easy for everybody to work with their dad. Are there any parts of it that are awkward, or do you guys have an irritatingly zen relationship?
We have a very zen relationship. I think because I edit my own work, that's where we have our disagreements. Because I'll spend, and actually it was a little bit unhealthy with this film, because I was cutting it in my childhood bedroom. And I was so excited.
He's like, come down for dinner.
Exactly. Get down here. I would be so excited to cut the movie. I'd roll out of bed and I'd spend the whole day cutting it. And then he would come in as the fresh eyes and he'd be like, that's a few too many thread inserts you got going on in there. And I'm like, what? That's what I spent the whole day doing. But it was necessary, and that was, but I think next time I'm going to go outside a little bit more and get some fresh air. And
do you guys plan on collaborating again?
Absolutely. We love writing together, and we're writing something now together. But yeah, it's a very smooth writing process.
Very few people say that about any writing process, so hold on to it.
Yeah, I will.
And will you still be trying to work inside kind of thriller motifs? I suppose if Coens are your idols, then it's kind of thrillers and comedies. There's a broad swath, but you're kind of staying with that for now.
Yeah, I just love tonal variety in films. I think it makes things fresh, and I know it's not for everyone, having a thriller with comedic elements.
It's the best. And there's not enough American cinema like it. There's lots of great Korean cinema where you get that. Yeah. But the Coens stand out so far because they can bring that comedy, or Tarantino,
Yeah. Well, and it feels, it's a level, it feels original too, and
human and real.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a tension in it, and I just love it so much. But I love the genre space too, and trying to look at ways to stay in genre, but of course have a fresh take on it. Because I think originality right now is kind of needed, especially in the U.S. I mean, IP content, when it's done right, it works. But I would love to see more fresh ideas out there.
Yeah, tell me that when they approach you about directing Ant-Man 4.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I know.
Well, look, thank you so much for talking to me. It's great to meet you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, cheers.
Great.